1% goes to the Hispanic community, and only 1.5% of that goes to the Black community. And you say, well, where is all of this spend going? And no disrespect to anyone in the room, but white women business owners receive 78% of the minority spend. And so we at the US Black Chambers are saying we have to start by being intentional about the communities in which we represent and the communities in which serve our best interests. And so we try to take it away from a minority conversation to an intentional conversation about the communities in which people live. Secondly, it's about really, as we've discussed, disaggregating the numbers so that we can really have input on where people live, operate their businesses, and need the support. And lastly, it's about accountability. And if we say, hey, we're going to increase the minority spend from 1% to the next, and we have legislators and officials that we've elected, let's hold them accountable to make sure that the things that they say, the things that we vote for, are actually being implemented to have the access to develop and success in the communities in which need it the most. One of the ways in which we've done that is through a certification program called Buy Black, BYBLACK.US. And this is a free directory for Black-owned businesses to be certified, to be found, and to be utilized, both from a federal government, state and local government, and consumers. We saw that during COVID, Black consumers were saying, hey, we would want to be able to support Black-owned businesses, but we can't find them. We saw that through the federal government when the federal government says, hey, Ron, we do more business with Black firms, but two conversations usually happen. One, we can't find them. Two, they don't have the size and the scale. And so the US Black Chambers created the Buy Black platform for Black-owned businesses to be located across the country, to be identified as 51% owned and operated by a Black person. And then third, when there's opportunities for mergers, consortiums, and even acquisitions, that's where we can start from. We've got to be intentional. We've got to be transparent. And more importantly, we've got to have programs that will allow us to grow and take advantage of the opportunities that exist today. Many times there are contracts that are coming down the pipe. Our firms are just a little too small. But when we have concepts about mergers, consortiums, and joint ventures, we can tackle those opportunities as well. But we've got to be intentional about doing it, and we've got to be able to have the resources, the technical assistance, and most importantly, the opportunities to implement the programs.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And some of those comments were really helpful and links. I appreciate those very much, as does the committee. And right now we don't have any more questions for you. So I thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us and speak with us.
Thank you so much for having us. And we look forward to continuing the dialogue, but more importantly, to be able to implement programs so that our businesses and communities can have access to the opportunities across the country.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, next on our agenda, as we continue talking about the challenges facing minority businesses, I want to welcome Larry Forrester, who's the Senior Vice President for Fort Bank, and Tyrone Tyra, who's the Senior Vice President for the Community and Minority Business Development from Commerce Lexington. Also want to recognize in the audience some good friends from Lexington, Bob Quick, CEO of Commerce Lexington, and Anthony Allen, who's also with Commerce Lexington. It's nice to have some Fayette County friends in the room. I'll let you get set up, and you can take a second to introduce yourself to the committee.
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Forster. As Senator just mentioned, I'm Senior Vice President for Fort Bank out of Lexington, Kentucky. Thank you for having me here. It's kind of my first time, so I'm not gonna lie to you. When I seen the email that said testify, I had to call a few calls to make sure everything was right. I said, hold on. So, but we would like to give you just a few pointers from the banking perspective. Also, I asked Tyrone Tyra to sit with me because he worked directly with me on the nonprofit side and through the chamber. and then I can give you some perspective from the lending side because I'm boots on the ground. I've been in banking now for 20 years. Started over in Eastern Kentucky in Pikeville, and then migrated over to Lexington. Has been here ever since. So, but with that, Tyrone, you want to introduce yourself as well?
Oh, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tyrone Tyra, Senior Vice President for Community and Minority Business Development at Commerce Lexington. And the one thing I would just like to say is, other than thanking you for having us today, is that we take a little bit more of a holistic approach, and I hope you'll see that through the conversation that we'll have with you today. And I'll let Larry get started.
Okay. So we came up with 8 pillars. I know time is of the essence, so we don't want to rush through them. So if you do have questions, please ask as time commits. But the challenges that are facing minority businesses, the 8 pillars started with limited access to capital, of course, reduce access to networks and mentorships, discrimination and bias, bureaucratic hurdles, challenges in branding and visibility, stereotyping, generational business knowledge gaps, and lack of financial literacy and business acumen. The first one, the limited access to capital. Of course, there's been a lot of studies shown that most minority entrepreneurs are more likely to get denied when they're coming in for their loans. I can't speak for me, but I do know that happens. As a banker, that does happen. Sometimes we are held to different standards, and I mean we minorities, not just African Americans, Hispanic Americans, all the above, Asian Americans. That is unfortunately a fact. So, we want to look at that and make sure that's been put out there as well. Reduce access to network and mentorship. There's a lack of representation in a lot of industries, especially here in Kentucky. Some of that I'm not sure we can fix, of course, because we got to have more kids. There's 4.5 million Kentuckians, and about 87% or 82% of those are white. So we got to take that in consideration as well. But with that being said, I'm sure there's opportunities out there to find individuals to be put in place to help be mentors for these businesses that are looking to prosper. And then you have discrimination and bias. Some customers may be conscious or unconsciously, discriminating based on bias. That happens a lot. It happens to me as a banker. Usually I'm being told I'm a pastor because I have a tie on. So that's just real life examples. So I just want to be fair and honest since I'm here and testifying. I want to make sure that I say the right things, but that's from my experiences as well. And then the bureaucratic hurdles. I'm not sure from the government standpoint, I would like for y'all to do a whole bunch, because my thing is when you force people to do things, they don't do it. If any of you have kids, I have 2 boys, and I try to force them to do stuff, and they just don't do it. But when they do it because they want to and because it's the right thing for the right reasons, it tend to work out better. But I understand that you got to have, criteria in place to motivate them. So if this is an opportunity to help motivate those businesses to do that, I think we should take heed to that as well. And then I'll pass it on to Tyrone.
And for us here at Commerce Lexington, we've studied this pretty heavily. And the one thing that the things that we think about are the things that are inside that business and business development. In business development, sustainability, and growth, you've got to sit down and speak with entrepreneurs about where they are, meet them where they are, and try to help them get through that path that they want to go. Many times people want to tell you how I am, I would mind, I'm also have a loan program that is open to everyone because you want to give everyone the access to opportunity. There's nothing like a good business, no matter what the color, that hires a minority and eventually they learn how to run a business. They get down the road. You never know what's going to happen, but you want to have that door open, and it makes it a more credible program, I think, because we do have that door wide open, minority business development, and we're open to the community also.
Thank you, Tyrone. Next, we want to go over the programs and initiatives. You want to hit that little button there?
Yeah, I'll try.
All right. We had 3 programs that Commerce Lexington is involved with. The one that I'm really just love is the Access Loan Program. And just to kind of explain that to you, that program allows a small business to come in and speak to how many lenders we got now?
We have 26.
26 lenders at one time. You don't have to go to the bank to get turned down, right? And then you'll be afraid to go to the next bank. They get one credit pull, present once in front of all the lenders that are interested, and those lenders would then come back and let Tyrone know or myself know, hey, if they're interested. So now you have the banks fighting for business, and we know how that works. It's like a supply and demand. If they want the business, they're going to fight for it. The business will get hopefully a better terms, better opportunities, because a lot of that comes into play. And the reason I like about it is because anybody can do it. We've done it with majority businesses. We've done it with minority businesses. We've done it with women-owned businesses. It's just the fact that allowing them the access and the ability for the opportunity to present in front of these lenders is vital, because we know that once you get turned down once from a bank, sometimes you may not be told why you're turned down. They just say you don't meet the criteria, but they don't tell you what the criteria is. In this case, you won't find out who turned you down. You're just going to find out who want to do business with you. And everybody loves to be courted. That's what I say. So it makes sense. And it's been very successful. We have numbers on that. I just told Tyrone I didn't want to speak on the numbers per se. We just need to speak on what's happening and how it gets done. If we want to get the numbers, we can provide that to you pretty quickly. And the third one is the Minority Business Accelerator Program. That program is put together to help scale businesses that are currently in place. Usually they're within the 3-5 year period and continue to grow. We use that program to bring in other businesses to help them build up, whether if it's construction, manufacturing, maybe marketing, advertising, things of that nature. Allow them to meet those prime contractors and see, hey, if there's an opportunity for you to do business with them. We have meetings with them. We encourage them. We have conversations about, hey, here's what you need to do. Here's how things need to happen. But then we step away, because now you got to build that relationship with that individual. So as we mentioned, certain barriers that were put in place, we try to bridge that. We try to bridge that gap, bring them together, because as Tyrone mentioned, all the tide rises all ships. But when everybody's working, there's less tax dollars that will be on all of us. So I like to see people working. The last one for me is the Opportunity Exchange. That's when we bring in business owners, whether they're majority, minority, woman-owned, and they speak to the businesses about, different aspects of their business. How do they start their business? What are some of the challenges that they went through? A lot of that is important, having that platform, but also to allow them to brag on themselves too about certain things that they have done that became successful, because folks need to hear that. And also they need to hear about pitfalls so they don't get into those same situations that the other businesses can do as well. So Tyrone, I'll pass those.
Thank you. And there are many opportunities in that situation for partnerships. And when you bring the businesses that support community and minority business development have shown over the 20 years I've been there. And by the way, let me just say one thing. The one thing I love about working at Commerce Lexington is that we did not start this 4 or 5 years ago and just came up with this idea when Mr. Brown was on council, 1999 and before, and when Ms. Bledsoe was there. We've been a steady entity, Commerce Lexington has, at supporting community and minority business development. So, we've supported minority businesses. That came about in 1999, and as I said, it was there before I got there. I just happened to be the person that came in and tried to improve it. So I think that we've been at it a long time. So the stats that we have and the trust that we have in the community, I think that is really good, because a lot of the whether it's the Urban League or the Housing Authority or other entities, large companies that have that want to do business with minorities, they're encouraged to do so, because they know if they pick somebody out of the chamber, they've had business development, they've had some things that we've worked with them on, and I think that really helps. I think some of the small businesses, when people grow and I go and see them at their with their speeches, they say one of the best things about it is getting in. One guy said a couple of weeks ago, he says, people kind of laugh at the idea of networking. He said, but it's been the best thing that I've done because you do it through the chamber, and everybody's there for the same reason. He said, and I'm there to build my business, and I don't mind letting people know it. And so and he has built a business. I mean, he's been in business for 9 years and done very well. So I think that, when given the opportunity, you're able to move through all of that. And so with our business recruiting services, what we try to do is we try to look out throughout our 9-county area and bring in businesses, let them know that there are opportunities in Lexington, and sort of position them for it. Get them an opportunity to talk to, in our area, some of the larger entities that are doing business, like the University of Kentucky, Fayette County Public Schools, LFUCG. We bring those minority businesses in and direct them, and we work with those partners at those entities to help them navigate through that system. And so we've been able to show some success. Some people, I can tell you, they might do 19 or 20 projects with the University of Kentucky, and it might only be under $100,000 a year. But count that, add it up, and that's what that business might want to. That might be their sweet spot, and that's what they're doing. And then a few years later, they're looking for larger opportunities. So that's why we work and do what we do, because there's a way to look at growth. And when you have people that have been there for a long time, like I said, Larry's been with me for years. I've been there for years. And the crazy thing about the Access Loan Program that Larry talked about, I'll give you a number. We're just under $26 million with an average loan of about $62,000. And that's what we've done over all those years. So they've sat and volunteered for a lot of things and looked at a lot of different deals. Everybody doesn't get funded. We're not saying that. But you have a better chance of going through the 2 stages of our program, because we help you with the business plan, the finances, and help you put together the right kind of package that a lender wants to look at. And what we did was we put together a program that has 2 nonprofits, so we can do the real small stuff, and then we can. I think we've done as high as like $3.4 million. That's probably been our largest loan. So we've really put small business development to the test, and we just have. I think we have a well-rounded program because, one, we have great volunteers, and I've always had the support of the Board of Directors of Commerce Lexington.
And I would like to end, Senator Bledsoe, if you don't mind. I took the initiative. I asked a customer of mine that to say, hey, it's the minority. I won't say no names, but say, hey, can you give me some pointers? Because they're in it, right? I'm on the other side of it. And I thought it would be, if it's okay, I would share their email. So it reads, in the early stages of starting his business, one of the most uncomfortable realities I faced was being underestimated. Access to capital wasn't just about bank loans or venture funding. It was also about relational capital. Rooms I should have been in, I wasn't invited to. Networks that could have opened doors I wasn't connected to or wasn't aware of. There were countless times when I knew we had talent, the strategy, and the creativity to deliver, but we had to be overproven in value in ways that others did not. Even now, with a proven track record, navigating capital remains a challenge. It is not that we can't access capital, it's that the terms, the opportunities, and the risk tolerance often shift. We've been fortunate to have, I didn't pay him for this. He said we're fortunate to have a good banker like yourself, but in most instances, we still have to prove our worth and with different agencies. There's a sense that black-owned businesses must be bulletproof just to get the same consideration as others receive with an idea and a handshake. So he wrote down some policy recommendations, culturally informed underwriting, create incentive programs for banks and CDIFs to use community-rooted or relationship-based underwriting models, especially for early-stage businesses led by people of color, public-private matching grants, establish programs that match private capital raised by diverse founders with state-backed grants or non-interest loans, especially with those with a proven track record and job creation potential, supplier diversity and enforcement expansion, and mentorship linked capital access. This particular company is doing business revenues between 10 and 20 million. He told me I can share that. So as you can see, you would think that they wouldn't be going through some of the same problems, but they still are. And I can attest to that because he's a good friend of mine as well. But I wanted to read that because no matter what I do, I'm on the other side of it. He's in it every day, and I thought it would be fair for the commission to hear. So let me thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
Thank you both very much. I've known you both for a long time, and you've been stellar representatives and public servants in Fayette County, not just serving minorities, but serving the city really well. And so I was grateful to have you all here and share some of the amazing work that we're doing, honestly, in Fayette County. And I'm glad you shared that. If you wouldn't mind sharing it so I can share it with the group, take out personal. So that's a good list of things to think about. And last summer, we did talk about some of those same challenges with relationships and access to capital. In a similar vein, you touched on this a little bit, but do you see or do you hear from businesses barriers or challenges to becoming small business contractors when dealing with the state when an RFP goes out? Like how do they talk about that? Is there a way to? Do you have any thoughts or recommendations on what we can do to make it easier?
Well, I what I hear is that it's pretty much it's kind of pushed into construction and those areas, but you have to have that certain DBE certification. It is there, but there's not, you pretty much have to do that on your own, and certification in general kind of has a lot of, most businesses for the last 20 years have been told that they have to do it. Up until recently, national events have said, whether you're certified or not, just because you're a minority business, you're considered DEI, and so that's a bad deal now when you're just trying to create a partner. You want the people would want the state to be a partner. So I think the certification is, if people can have somebody there to help them walk through it in a deeper fashion, you get more people certified and they'd be able to take on those DBE contracts, because a lot of federal contracts still does have incentives, if you're a minority business. But if you're going to tell me that I have to be certified, and then I've got to work on that and my business, where am I going to have time? I need somebody not to do it for me, but to help me, like we do, and sort of mentor me through that process.
And just from my perspective, just the process itself, is there a way to maybe have someone from the state work with those businesses, or have a, I don't know what you want to call it, a coffee deal or something to explain how the process works, but also bring the decision makers at some point in those meetings so they can get to know those others, subcontractors or subcontractors as well. Because again, I think I mentioned it earlier, you only do business with who you know anyway. So if I'm told to do business with Tyrone and I never met him, regardless of what he looks like, I probably won't if I'm already doing business with Representative Brown. So, but the only way I can meet Tyrone is if we have to have something set up. So if there's a process for that, I'm not sure, but I know that those are ways that you can help. You don't force anybody. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Don't force anybody, because it never works. But if you can bring them together and let them build a relationship, and then somehow if there's some incentives involved with that, then yes, you will see that. Because at the end of the day, both businesses in this case are looking to make money, period. This is it. And we can talk about all the other things, but at the end of the day, they want to make money. They want to pay their employees. They want to, live and have a decent lifestyle, whatever their lifestyle so be. So if we can figure out ways to bring them together and help build those relationships, then yes, that would be something key. I've heard it multiple times, but a lot of times the decision makers is not there. So it's maybe 2 or 3 steps away from the decision maker.
That's helpful. Thank you. We do have a number of people who have questions. I'll start with Ms. Smith-Willis.
Thank you. Thank you both for the presentation today. I found it really insightful being from Frankfort and there being an HBCU here in town and talking with numerous people in my community that want to start up businesses, especially Black-owned businesses. This is some really good information for me to take back to my community. My one question that I had for you, Mr. Forrester, you were talking about how you're on the other side of things. In terms of the access loan, what measures are you all taking to ensure that those 26 lenders that you all are recognizing and they're addressing the implicit biases that are really put in place, especially against minorities, to build that trust within the community and to work with them to make sure that they're getting their full benefit out of working with them.
Okay. That's easy. I'm on there. Last time I checked, I got a permanent tan. So we're not going to have any of that going on. But I'm saying that to be honest, though. But we actually have a subcommittee, and that I'm a part of, Tyrone's a part of, and there's 3 more?
Yeah.
3 more. So we actually look at the applications before they get to the big committee, and we vet those applications. So if there's things that are missing, we not let them come in that, to be half, things not completed. And if they don't get them completed, they can't present. So we make sure that when they come in and speak, they have all their ducks in a row, and then we give them to the committees. I skipped that part because I didn't know if you want to know that, but that's fine. But we do pay heavily attention to making sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, because at the end of the day, they got to be, like we said, we know we have to do 110, and that's okay. And it doesn't matter how it looks, but we want to know when you put that product out there, it has to be good enough to get financing. We only need 1 person to say yes. So out of 26, we need 1. That's all, just 1 person to say yes. So we need to make sure that things are in line and put in place. So my banking background, I bring that to the table. We have another banker involved. We have a citizen, which is a CPA that's involved.
And 2 people that used to bank,
yes.
But they're community people now.
So we underwrite it like we would at a bank, but then we can actually have more conversations with the potential client to say, hey, you're missing this, or you need to get this, or maybe, I'll give you an example. If you're saying you're going to make $10 million in revenue the first year, number one, I want to know if that's true, because I might quit and start getting their job. But we want to know why. Like, explain why. You got these projections, you need to have underlying assumptions to these projections. You can't be a pie in the sky. Like, I understand that's possible, but what's the reality to come out of this? So we want to make sure we break that down so that when they get there, they will know the answers to most of the questions. But it also helps them, because now they know more about their business. And if you know more about your business, you survive. The less you know about your business, you fail. So we want them to be successful, and that's what we do. And we stick with them, too. We don't just do it and don't reach back. Tyrone reached back with them the entire time. I mean, we've had businesses now. How long has it been?
Well, I think the longest one is been 20 years,
20,
and some of them have changed. You've got one right here in Frankfort. It was the 3rd deal that I did at Commerce Lexington, and she opened up a wine shop, and I think she's Capital Cellars. I'll put that out there, and she's sold that now. But that was a startup within our program. And just think about it, startup, liquor, all that. But what I think what Larry was trying to say in a nutshell is that we help them put together the proper information so that it is correct by the time it gets there. Now that might be 2 weeks, for that person, or it might be 3 to 6 months, depending on how that person, what they want to do. But we said we're going to get it right before we take it to the full committee, so they don't know if they're a minority or not until they walk in the door and then put on their presentation. So I think that's really important to us, is that they know that what we're putting on the paper is tried and true, and I think we can show it by how many businesses that are still in business over the years that we've gone through this process. A lot of people will call it Shark Tank, but I'll just say that this was started in 1999.
There's nowhere near Shark Tank. Not that bad. No.
Thank you both so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Chairman Jackson.
Thank you, Lady Chairwoman. Thank you, Mr. Forrester, Mr. Tyler, for being here. Thank you for your presentation, but also thank you for what you're doing, boots on the ground in Lexington. And I hope we got people doing this across the state. I'm not sure, but I hope we do. But my background's in education, 37 years in education, and I didn't know if we were doing something. I still think education is the big equalizer in our society today. So I didn't know if we were doing anything education-wise to help, whether that's high school, whatever. And then the second part would be the mentorship. I have seen that in Bowling Green, where I'm from, how important mentorship is. I don't know if we have anything statewide, but I can, for example, there's a young man, was an African-American football player at Western, graduated, got Jim Martins to be his mentor, who's probably the biggest donor to WKU. And now that young man is one of the most successful real estate agents in Bowling Green. And I think that mentorship had a lot to do with that. So I guess education, mentorship would be my two big things. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, unfortunately, what I will say is that, we catch folks when they're adults, just because for about 15 years, I was a one-person department. So, along with seven volunteers. So regular volunteers. So what we try to do with that, and that's part of the financial literacy part. We've always done financial literacy, and that's helping them, dig deep into the business education. So we kind of concentrate on that of being able to write and put down the proper things to get that loan, to get that request across the finish line. So we work with them with adults, but that's a lot of business planning, a lot of cash flow, a lot of development. So we're pretty much working with adults when we do that. And our mentorship program, we feel like that if we put people in a room through the opportunity exchange and they become natural partners, that becomes kind of a mentorship in itself. We don't have a mentorship program per se, but if somebody is doing business with a large construction company and they continue to do business, they're learning a lot of things along the way. And then they come back later on after they've taken that business and they become a speaker. And this is what we do. We put them back in front of others to show them how that gets down the road. They say, okay, I've been with X company for 7 years now, and I've grown my business to this. This is a track that I think that you might want to consider taking. So that's the kind of mentorship program and the kind of education that we do. But we work mostly with adults.
Okay. Thank you.
And for Tyrone, for me, I do go into the high schools. That's one of my other jobs that I didn't know I had to. And but it's fun. You work with the seniors and juniors, and just ask a lot of questions. Typically, you go in and folks want to do banking 101. I don't do banking 101. I do banking reality, and teach them about not business, but also how to use that plastic card that they think money's just on, and keep spending and swiping. And there's processes that's in place with that. So we talk about things of that nature, the business aspects of it, how banks makes money off that, how they can make money off different business acumen that they're doing. Because a lot of kids now are making money off social media. We can sit there and think they aren't, but they're looking for certain clicks and things of that nature. So they got to know how to handle that money, because when that money comes in, what are they going to do with it? What's the best option to do, whether if it's investing for their future, putting money in their 529 plans, and just actually investing into the market. A lot of them don't realize that you can do that. So there's different aspects of that too, but that's totally separate from Commerce Lexington, of course. That's just something we do as a bank. That's kind of the right thing to do, since we're in the community we serve. So you want to get out and talk to them, because at some point they may be up here. They might be my doctor. They may be my lawyer. Who knows? But we can teach them early. I agree with you, because someone taught me, and you're always trying to reach back to help out the next. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Berg?
Thank you, Ms. Chairwoman. Thank you for a very interesting presentation. We did, I believe, and maybe somebody in the room can help me more. we did pass a bill last session that requires that we teach financial literacy to our, I think it was juniors, wasn't it? Juniors, seniors? One credit. So it probably won't be enough, but at least it's a start. A start. Because I agree that the lack of knowledge puts people in just an untenable position. If you don't know where the risks are, you don't know what other people know about how you manage money and how people who manage money are going to manage you, then you just don't have a chance. So that's one thing I'm very, very happy that we're doing in this state. But I have two questions. Who pays your salary?
Commerce Lexington. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And do we have this type of program going anywhere else besides Lexington in the state? And then my second question, which is really what I'm really looking for, as a legislator, as a legislative body, you seem to just sort of acknowledge that it is harder for minorities to get loans and just say this is the world we live in. What can we do to alter that world? Those are my questions.
All right. Well, I'll start out by saying who pays my salary is Commerce Lexington. It's a local chamber of commerce, and we try to work in what we call the bluegrass area. So I work in a little bit more than Fayette County, and what we try to do is we try to market out through our economic development department to 8 other counties that surround Fayette County, and that allows us. If those businesses are interested, we will bring them in, and they get they could work in the same access loan program that we have. So we've had businesses in Franklin County, businesses in Clark County that have taken advantage of our loan program, and others that we've gone through training with, in there. But it is concentrated mostly in Fayette County. And from my perspective, what can be offered, I don't know of any. A companion state loan program. I mean, the state has some tools that companions the loans through banks, like collateral support programs and things like that. But I don't think that there is any. I don't think there's any direct money that goes that can be evaluated. And if a loan is if it's a pretty good loan, I don't know of any state products that you can go through and get that thing fully funded. Through the state of Kentucky, so I think that would help. And some places offer grants, but I don't know very much about the granting operation. But I know that some states have also offered grants since the pandemic.
The first question, who pays my salaries? Mr. Terry Fork at Fork Bank. If he's watching, thank you. And then you had asked the second one is what can we do to help banks fund, minority business, women-owned businesses. I would say some of that is we are regulated. We probably one of the heaviest regulated industries in the country. So a lot of that started in Washington. And I don't want to say anything that, upset them, of course. But there's criteria that we look for when we're doing deals. One of the things I think the education has to be is on the ground level with the bankers, because when you tell a person they don't qualify and you don't tell them why, that means they don't know how to come back. So, the education, as Representative Jackson stated, that individual borrower will not know what to do because they're just told no, or you're rejected. Not, hey, you're rejected because you may want $100,000 to do X, but your net worth is not high enough. So what can we do to help you there? So do you need a cosigner? Do you need someone to sign some collateral to support that? Or is there programs that you can use? As Tyrone mentioned, you have the Small Business Administration Guarantee programs. Those are available. The state has the collateral support programs. Some banks use, some banks don't. Typically, when you get into those programs, the loan is a higher risk, so you're using those programs to enhance that credit. So it's not It's not to make a bad loan good. It's to make a loan that you typically would do if all the criteria met, and then you would take that as an additional support to fund the deal. But now you're talking to each bank has their own appetite for risk. So you can't speak, I cannot speak for every institution. I will not speak for every institution, I can tell you. But just know that each institution, from Chase Bank all the way down to Fort Bank, we have a different appetite for risk. And that risk, depending on where you are, where the economy is located, and what typically has burned you in the past. So you have to protect yourself and protect the bank's assets as well. But the education piece on the front end, though, is key. And I've learned that just in the years of banking, and still continuing to learn that, is just having that conversation with the individual client as they come. But I'm just one person, but we try to do the best we can.
Thank you. Representative Brown?
I was sitting here with bated breath. I thought she wasn't going to ever call on me. Thank you, Madam Chair and Vice Chair. I came in on the queue, but I am so proud being a Lexington Fayette Urban County government person, being from Fayette County, and the things that we've done to get us to this place. Tyrone, you've been around a while. Larry, let me just go back. Mr. Tyra, you've been around a while, and the things that you've done and the growth that you've had. And Mr. Forrester, thank you so much for helping on the banking side. And he's sitting there awful quiet. Mr. Bob Quick, who was as the chairman, president of Commerce Lexington, and what he did in starting this and making it happen early on. Is fantastic. So, Bob, thank you so much for what you and the Board of Commerce Lexington has done to move this program forward. I have a couple of questions. The first question that I have is, how do you get people that have technical expertise to be a business? And there's a huge difference between having technical expertise versus having a business, having people around you that do business. So can either one of you speak to that? Oh, Mr. Quick, please come to the table, man. He's sitting back there. He's supposed to be incognito, and I just to pull the cover off of you. But if you all could speak to that would be fantastic.
You gonna tackle that one since you came up here? I think the comfort level of getting a check from somewhere else, you gotta combat that with not being comfortable and owning your own business and not knowing where your paycheck is going to come in this week or not. So that's changing the mindset of people. So I think, as Representative Jackson mentioned and Senator Berg has hinted on too, is educating the youth and letting them see that there's prosperity in owning your business. There's a lot of opportunities to own your business, because we've kind of come up, in life is, hey, you go work for someone for 20 years and you can retire and that's it. You've seen your grandfather do it. Maybe your mother and father's done it as well. So you got to retrain a generation that's been told to do that. And then you got to also allow for those opportunities to take place if there's grants. I'm not sure how that will work. If there's loans that has to be repaid back, or they're low interest loans, that may be more feasible. Grants aren't meant to be paid back, loans are. So those are things too that you got to weigh and see, and it could be a combination of the two. But just trying to retool in that generation mindset of, it's not a bad thing to own a business, but with that, what comes with it? Are there incentives to own a business? Are there any tax breaks that you can obtain from owning a business? Those are things that you want to come into play, because it's hard to fight. Hey, I can go to work, get a check, don't have to deal with anything else, pay my taxes at the end of the year and move on, and go to somebody else to do this or that. But I think if you can continue to get the youth engaged and understanding like the importance of that would be helpful.
And I'll make a prediction right here, Representative, that you will see a change in Lexington Fayette County when the Hill gets rolling, because they will be teaching small business ownership at the Hill. I guarantee it. when you think of the way that they're putting that together, that whole technical school that was just dedicated in Lexington, they've reared their whole technical schools towards that, and they'll make people understand that technical ability to be a plumber, an electrician, and all those kinds of things are readily available for you. And just think these kids are going to get this in a modern setting, something that, and they've totally changed the philosophy of how they're going to run what we should call Vo-Tech, get in a little bus and go to Vo-Tech school. Now this is a big thing, and if you ever get a chance to visit, you ought to just go take a visit. I mean, they even have aviation training at this school, and so I think you're gonna see. I'm not asking people to wait to that next generation, but I think that you'll see a lot of changes in that in the ability of people to want to own their own operations, because they will have a lot of early training in it.
This is, Madam Chair, if I may, just to let people that are watching from around the state, this is public education. This is Fayette County Public Schools. We just need to make sure people understand that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Quick, if we could have comment from you and put your 2 or 3 or 4 cents in there, that would be great.
Well, these two individuals said a lot.
Make sure your button is green.
These two individuals have said quite a bit, and it's all important. Also, it's been said we need to get to our young people at an earlier age to make them not fear entrepreneurship, but to understand it. And the other thing that Tyrone said earlier, and Larry, was the simple fact that we need to help these individuals know that they can create a great living, just like everybody else that grows and prospers. But entrepreneurship is kind of scary. You've got programs out there like Junior Achievement. We have a great Junior Achievement program. It gets to kids at a very young age and helps them understand financial literacy. We got to do a better job, I think, in many other aspects of education. But what we do, and I'm just really repeating, is that we try to become that safety net. We try to build the mentorship so that an individual who's an adult can feel comfortable. They got somebody that's there for them, to take care of them, to help them, not to do their work, but to remove all the barriers that may exist in front of them. And that's how difficult, but how simple what we're talking about really is.
Let me just throw something out to the three of you, and maybe you all could speak to that. But I think in terms of entrepreneurship and owning a business, generational wealth, that what occurs if you work and you work a job and you get a paycheck, once you don't work, you don't have anything to pass on to give to your ancestors or your descendants. But owning a business, building a business from ground up, you are able to have generational wealth. There's something that you can leave, you can pass on. Can you all speak to that?
Well, I can tell you one of the proudest moments for me is when one of our local entrepreneurs, who happens to be a consulting engineer, said his son graduated college at UK, and he's a consulting engineer also, and they have offices in Lexington and Louisville and around the state. I mean, a lot of you know his name, but I will just say that's the kind of thing that's the kind of examples. And what I try to do is I want to put this young man out there in more situations so he can tell people how fruitful it is to look at his father's business, something that he put 30 years into, and now I'm continuing on. Again, I think there's some value in people seeing, Larry Forster's children, seeing him as a successful banker. That'll be something that they want to do. I think the same thing can happen in entrepreneurship. The more people that we help on this end right now, those more of those individuals will probably become small business owners also, and because they will see the benefits of their mother or father being in the business for a long period of time.
I want to add one other thing, that one of the other things that we've done with young African American males in our community, you may have heard of the Black Males Working Academy, BMW. It works. And we go build relationships. And you both said it a number of times, this is all about building trust. And you get to trust by having a relationship and moving where you take every barrier that you can and you remove those barriers. It's not easy. It happens in every aspect of our community, but you just got to be intentional. And let me throw out one other thing. And if I didn't say this, it would be shame on me. These are two very unique individuals, incredible leaders. If you could see how they work, how they operate, how they connect, they got full-time, this guy's got a full-time job. He's everywhere. Tyrone, I'm not sure what hours of night he sleeps. They love what they do, and you've got to have passion. That passion rubs off on other people, and they get really excited, and they know that they're going to have somebody there to help them. I live in a part of Lexington that's very international. Our kids have grown up on a street that, Chairwoman, 40% or higher international. And so our kids grew up knowing that there's a lot of different, nationalities, cultures, but they respect those. They understand them. And that's what we have to do, I think, far and wide throughout the Commonwealth. I'm rambling, but again, I just want to say these two individuals are very unique, and we're very fortunate to have them.
Madam Chair, I've got a whole lot of other things. My cup runneth over, and I am so happy and pleased with what we've done with economic development and in moving forward. I hope that we continue to move forward and that the things that are happening in the national politic do not derail what is happening in Lexington Fayette County. We've been doing this, Bob, since 1999, 2000, in trying to build this. So this is a dream that is one come true. So Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, thank you very much, and thank you all for being here and speaking to the challenges facing minority businesses, because there are many. But if the rising tide lifts all boats, if we're able, as PG Peoples has said many, many times, if we can raise the rising tide to raise all boats, we all will be better for it. So, hopefully we can get some traction from this, and we can talk about, and I tell people as I talk about how we propose legislation has to meet 3 criteria. Has to meet federal constitutionality, it has to meet state constitutionality, and then it has to be something that you and I can agree on. So as maybe we can talk about legislation and putting legislation together that we could facilitate eradicating some of the challenges that minority businesses face. Maybe we can put some of those in place. So thank you all very much for coming. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. That was well said. Thank you all three very much for your service and dedication. We're grateful. I wish we could replicate it throughout the state, and I appreciate your feedback very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
We have we have 2 more presentations today. So I'll first call up Carl Brasley. He is with the 7 p.m. group. Carl, if you want to come on up and introduce yourself more formally and turn on the little green button there when you start to speak, and the floor is yours.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Not only am I nervous for not having been in a presentation like this, but then I have to follow them. And also, I noticed that I'm the only small or minority business that's going to present today, so I feel added pressure to represent the small businesses. So just going to ask you guys to bear with me just a bit as I go through my presentation or my speech. In the words of the great Detroit statesman and rapper Eminem, look, if you had one shot, one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already, mom's spaghetti. He's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs, and he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes loud. He opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel. Palms sweaty right now, a little nervous. That's why I'm just going to read what I have to say. Members of the commission, thank you for this vital opportunity to speak on behalf of small and minority businesses in Kentucky. I commend your commitment to examining race and access to opportunity within our Commonwealth. Your mandate to research and identify disparities is critical, but today I ask that we confront the stark reality of the true access means, the reality of what true access means, and what opportunity actually looks like on the ground of businesses like mine. For years, we've engaged in crucial conversations and we've seen efforts to level the playing field. Yet the data tells a persistent, challenging story. Nationally, studies show that while minority-owned firms represent a significant portion of all businesses, for instance, 33.7% of all businesses in the United States in 2020, they capture just 10.1% of federal contract dollars. The disparity is even more pronounced at the state and local level, where between 2014 and 2019, minority firms comprised 15% of available businesses, but receive only 6.3% of state and local contract dollars. This is not merely an inconvenience, it is a systemic economic exclusion. Here in Kentucky, our own business landscape reflects the profound imbalance. As of 2022, only 7.7% of businesses in Kentucky are minority-owned, a figure that significantly trails the 12.5% of our state's population identified as underrepresented minorities. This gap is not just a statistic, it's a profound economic inequity. Let's look specifically at the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, KYTC, a major awarding body for capital projects. The KYTC has a disadvantaged business enterprise, DBE program, established decades ago precisely because that their own historical documentation states disadvantaged individuals, minority and women, weren't able to compete with well-known larger corporations. Yet, despite this historical recognition and ongoing need, the KYTC's stated overall DBE goal for federally financially assisted contracts for fiscal years 2023 through 2025 is a mere 1.24%. Commissioners, I urge you to reflect on that number, 1.24%. This is a sliver of opportunity, the meager fraction that minority businesses are currently designed to squeeze out of the state's multi-billion-dollar capital projects, and yet even this minuscule percentage is under threat. We are watching with immense frustration and anxiety as cases like Mid-America Milling Company versus U.S. Department of Transportation challenges these very DBE programs. Imagine the demoralization while we fight for less than 2% of the work. A successful mainstream company is so mad that they are not getting the remaining percent that the minority companies squeeze out that they take their grievances to court. This is the reality. We are asked to compete for crumbs, and then we watch as those crumbs are litigated, threatening to take even that away. Commissioners, minority businesses are really struggling and desperate right now. We frequently hear about the need for more training programs, more workshops, and more certifications. And while we appreciate these efforts to enhance our capabilities, I must be direct. Small and minority businesses in Kentucky do not primarily need more training, we need more contracts. We need more direct, tangible work. You can train a fighter, but if they are never allowed into the ring, their skills may remain hypothetical. It's been a convenient excuse for too long to say we need more training. Mainstream companies got their trainings doing work, and we want that same opportunity. We are prepared, certified, and ready. What we lack is equitable access to the very procurement opportunities that allows us to utilize those skills, hire more Kentuckians, and contribute fully to our state's economy. The current emphasis often inadvertently keeps us in a perpetual state of readiness without the actual doing. This is where good efforts fall short of meaningful change. It appears, commissioners, that the system isn't broken. It is working just the way the mainstream wants it to. It efficiently channels the vast majority of opportunities away from those it claims to uplift, leaving us perpetually at the starting line. Therefore, I challenge this commission not simply to study disparity, but to actively dismantle it through measurable actions. My ask, my profound request, and challenge to the commission today is a commitment to champion legislation and mandate the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and the other major state procurement agencies, not just to try to achieve a minimum of 10% in contracts awarded, but monitor, track, and report the progress through a third-party entity which could hold general contractors accountable. This would not only help address the disconnect in what the GC say is going on and what really happens, it could also save the state money. This should not be an aspirational goal. It should be a vital, measurable step towards equity. It will demonstrate a true shift from rhetorical support to economic justice. I also ask you to put more weight behind some of the efforts you have already supported that have not put any weight behind, and thus they've been ignored. Steps like the Breaking the Mold, Progress Through Procurement, Power to Prosper, the Kentucky Minority Contractor Procurement Portal, Minority Contractors Exchange, MCE, recommendations from the 2020 Kentucky Chamber Report, Achieving Equity Behind a Strong Kentucky. Finally, this is not a call for preferential treatment, but for a real and genuine attempt for equity. If this commission, with its unique legislative authority and mandate, does not fight for us, what chance do we have at even a hope for something that resembles fairness? How are minority companies ever going to win if all we get are promises and programs? My request is doable. If you consider all we've been through and are going through, then this request is extremely reasonable. I repeat, your mandate is critical to minority businesses. Thank you in advance for considering my request and allowing me this opportunity to speak to you, and I'd love to take any questions you have.
Thank you very much. You didn't seem nervous to me at all. Thank you very much. Commission members, do you have any questions or comments? Senator Herron?
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. When you talked about the percentage of contractors that are minority-owned or Black-owned, can you also talk about, with that percentage, is it a certain amount of is it a certain amount of dollars, like a percentage of the dollars that has to be spent, or is it the percentage of the number of contracts they give out? Does that make sense?
Sure. Wow. So how it is tracked is by spend, by dollars spent, and there's so many disconnects, and this is what I really hope to elaborate on, and maybe even get to ask you guys a couple of questions. But this is how it works: is that often the GCs, the general contractors who receive the contracts from the owners, they'll receive a contract, and a lot of times they're asked to make a good fourth effort to make sure that a certain amount of the dollars that they receive are spent with minority and women-owned companies. So a lot of times, sometimes they will say, hey, we've hit these percentages, we've exceeded these percentages, and sometimes not. They'll attach a form that says, we've made a good fourth effort and we can't find the companies. But what we've found in our work, not all the times are those reports accurate. So what we do on a number of companies we work for, entities we work for, like Fayette County Schools, like the University of Kentucky, University of Louisville, like Jefferson County Public Schools, and the city of Louisville. We also do, because one of the things we've learned, we do an errors report. Now, the errors report goes to no one but the owner, and it tells the difference between what is stated and what really happens. And a lot of times, there's millions of dollars of differences between what's stated. And I could give you guys examples until the cows come home, things like where a contractor has said, yes, we've met our 10%, and we've given a contract for $250,000 to a certain minority contractor. But when we went and checked on them, we asked, how did everything go? Did the contract go well? And he says, yes, our contract went well. And he said, so you got all your money? Yes, we got all $50,000. I said, excuse me? He said, yeah, we were paid all $50,000. I said, your contract's not $50,000. He said, oh, yes, it is. I said, wait. Now imagine this is the disconnect. Who goes between the owner, the GC, and the contractor? So what the owner wants is a building or a project finished. So when the project's finished, they're happy. They ask no more questions. But who knows what actually goes on between that GC and that contractor? And so when we went back and shared with the contractor, did you know that you were put down for $250,000, but you were only given a contract for $50,000? Everybody was surprised. And who checks behind them? That's why I asked for a third party. Who checks behind them? We know that owners and all these entities have schedules, and they got priorities and things to meet. So no one checks behind it. So what we believe is everything's going well and folks are getting paid and things are happening the way they should. But I can tell you for a fact that almost every project we've been on, and there's been a number of them, we have errors reports. And the errors report shares with us all these opportunities of things that on the surface look like they're going well, but really they're not. And you wonder why sometimes the minority business are so angry at the owners when it's really misdirected. The University of Kentucky, the City of Lexington, Fayette County, University of Louisville, they're making great attempts. But how come those attempts don't hit the street? Where's the accountability? We're getting buildings built, we're getting bridges built, we get all these things happen, and we stand that we're hitting these numbers and we're growing these numbers, but still we don't see the proof of minority businesses growing. Why is that happening? And so Senator, what's going on is there's reports about money that should be spent, but the question is, does that money actually make it to those people that it should be spent to? And so specifically to your question, the accountability is on the overall total numbers. So when you say 10%, they're talking about 10% of the budget.
Representative Brown.
Thank you. I'm riding on a high today. This is one of those days. Mr. Braisley, you in your statement talked about the system is not broken. Say the system is working just as outlined. Can you explain that to this committee and to the people of the Commonwealth of Kentucky? Because I think that says volumes.
We have, numbers don't lie. If you have the right numbers, numbers don't lie. And so we've consistently, let me say this, let me give you my little commercial moment. I know Mr. Tyra and Mr. Forrester and yourself, Representative Brown and Senator Herron, and I am happy that we have real champions, and we need more champions. We need more people who we know 10 toes down fight for us. We need more champions, and we need to know who those champions are. But they can only do so much. I think there's more that needs to be done on several different levels. There needs to be, as the U.S. Black Chamber spoke up, there needs to be more accountability. We need to go more than the cursory effort of, hey, we have a program, we've done some of these other things. The reason why the system is broke is because you look at the end report and minority businesses haven't substantially grown. I used to give this report years ago, and hopefully it makes the point, is that the largest chemical company, black-owned chemical company in the country used to resides in Indianapolis, Indiana. And they got their come up, and that's a term we use when folks, the mentorship people help you get to where you're going. They got their come up from a small company in Indianapolis called Eli Lilly. The largest business owner in Cincinnati is a Hightower fueling company, and they got their come up from a small company called Kroger. The largest construction company in Nashville, and I can't forget the one in Nashville, but the one in Atlanta is the largest construction company. Used to be HJ. I'm forgetting the name of them now. But anyway, they got their come up from a small company called Coca-Cola. And so I asked you, from some of the major companies, and I would tell them this in Louisville, that have grown, the major black companies that have grown, where did they get their come up from? And they used to tell me, well, what about Junior Bridgman? He's a billionaire. He's done really, really well. And I say, Junior Bridgman, who regret to say passed away and was a friend of mine and passed away recently, but Junior Bridgman was very successful, but he didn't get his come up from anybody in Kentucky. He got his come up out of Columbus, Ohio, from Dave Thomas, who helped him when his first Wendy's burned down. He gave him another chance, and then from there he went on and made billions of dollars. He just was a brilliant guy. They say, well, what about the Houstons? HJI, they're a great company. They're in Louisville, and they got their come up from Ford. And I say Ford is correct, but it's not Ford in Louisville or Kentucky. It's Ford out of Detroit. When another company that couldn't fulfill their contract, they went to Detroit and fulfilled the contract. And then I would ask you, what major minority company in the state of Kentucky has reached that level and they've got their come up from a Kentucky company? Now, I'm not saying that there hasn't been contracts, but that's a whole different story from what I'm talking about, the success that some of these major companies have had in other states and what we've seen here. And so if you ask me about where the system is broken I'll ask you, show me where the growth in minority businesses come from. Don't tell me about the programs. Programs are good. I've been through all of them. I have every certification, DBE, MWBE, you name it. We've got it, and I've been through it. I have multiple degrees, and I've done all that and wanted to be the poster child. But guess what? There is no poster. And so it's just really, really tough if there's not an avenue that's mandated, if there's not something that can guarantee, if you can't walk it through, like in the old algebra, they make you go through the equation to go from the beginning to the end to see how you win. I can take you from the beginning, but I can't show you how to win. And so I would ask you, you tell me what a win looks like in this current climate, because I don't know how to write that equation. I have the certifications. I have the educations. I've done all the things that was asked of me. I've put my money on the line and borrowed and did everything that I've went to the banks and been turned down. So I'm coming to you, Mr. Forster. But anyway, I've done all the things that I was educated to do and taught to do, but it doesn't equal a win. And that's the frustration. So that's why I would say the system is working like it's supposed to, because it can keep you going around in programs and issues, but no one can tell you when you win. And so for my kids, I would always tell them, I'm gonna set the bar. I'm gonna tell you what you're gonna get if you do certain things. No arguments, no questions. I'm gonna set the bar. If you do these things, you'll have a win. So I'm waiting for someone to tell me, when minority companies do those things you tell me that we gotta do to win, where is the win?
I want to make sure you're done, Representative Brown, before I say anything. Thank you so much for your insight and perspective and your willingness to share it with us.
Thank you guys for having me.
Really do.
It's been a scary pleasure.
I'm sorry, Mr. Brown.
Oh, it's okay. I was writing, and I think Mr. Brazeley raises one heck of a point, and it's something that we can deal with. The contracts that we have with Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and the other cabinets that we have that are doing big business and paying big dollars. The question is where is the win? And we have got to help identify the win. And I think that we, as the members of the General Assembly, can set that stage, because the unfortunate thing is that so many entities are winning, and there's so much winning going on that, and we're not taking a part of that in the state. And I would love to see us be the drum major, if you will, in terms of dealing with diverse vendors. And Mr. Brazeley, we've had a somewhat long relationship in working with the University of Kentucky in my position there. But I think what Mr. Brazeley is simply asking is for us to be able to help in the Commonwealth of Kentucky to identify the win for diverse vendors in our state, because there are eminently qualified vendors out here that simply need an opportunity. I don't have a question for you, Mr. Brazeley. You did an excellent testimony in front of this committee, and thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you. Can I make one other really quick statement?
Quick.
And the point I really hope to drive home was just this, that I think you would see significant change if there could be third-party accountability with contractors. There's so much that goes on that never hits the light of day. And it's been going on like this for years and years and years. So thank you, guys.
I appreciate that. I wrote that one down too. Thank you very much. All right, our last presentation, but certainly not our least, is Mr. Taylor, who is with the Minority Contractors Association of Kentuckiana. Mr. Taylor, if you'll come and introduce yourself, and I think you have a presentation. I think Lynn's going to help get you set up.
Madam Chair, before they speak, can I make an introduction? He wasn't here when we opened the meeting, but I've got my intern for next session. He was my intern for part of the 25 session, but he will be my intern for the 26 session. And he's a young man that is a graduate. Oh, he will be a soon graduate next year.
Okay, thank you.
From the Kentucky State University. He is a resident of the West End of Louisville. And if you would stand up, my young brother, and let's just give him a hand. That's all I got. I've drawn a blank. Tell me your name, man. His name is Ray Cowan Jr. I'm sorry, I've spoken so much I forgot his name. But he's agreed to be my intern in the upcoming session. So he's gonna be my right hand and my left hand and the spirit in the middle. So Ray Cowan Jr.
Welcome.
All right, fantastic. You may begin. If you introduce yourself and your guests to the table.
Great, thank you very much. Again, my name is Donovan Taylor, and I'm here on a volunteer basis. Again, well, my name is Donovan Taylor, and I'm here on a volunteer basis representing the Minority Contractors Association of Kentuckiana, and also here with our assistant, Ms. Kennedy. And I guess we're going to hear more so on the boots on the ground about issues dealing with small businesses here in Kentucky, and particularly with our construction-based businesses here in Kentucky. The Minority MCAK was started with the commitment to advancing our minority and small-based businesses in Kentuckiana, with helping them with contract opportunity, professional growth, and inclusion. I am formerly the director of the Plan Room, which was a business accelerator program in the city of Louisville, focused on our small and construction-based businesses. And we worked closely with MCAK in that effort to help our minority businesses in Kentucky. What really sparked the effort was the boom in construction in the city of Louisville, in particular in the West End community, and with the intentionality to help our local businesses and our local minority businesses be included and involved in that in the development. And hence, with the collaboration with MCAK and the Plan Room of really providing a resource for our local small contractors to be able to advance themselves. If they are, and we realize that many of our contractors, we have a wealth of minority contractors in the state who are very, very qualified to participate on many of the construction projects going on throughout the state. But we also have many of our contractors who are small, who are up and coming, and the Plan Room served as a resource for them to get prepared to participate in this local construction boom that's going around the state. Many of the challenges that our small businesses face, and particularly as it relates to our construction-based businesses, is limited to access to capital, which is an issue. We try to work closely with our city and our local banks on addressing that issue. One of the main things that we feel that could really help many of our small and minority contractors is contract-based lending. If many of our banking institutions would consider that as a capital access opportunity for our contractors, many of them dealing with credit and other collateral issues, but if they could use that contract as a collateral to fulfill that opportunity, would really be very, very helpful for many of our small and minority-based contractors here in the state. Some of our banking institutions have given some light to that, in particular in the city of Louisville through their Metco banking program. They actually have begun to offer contract-based lending for individuals who've landed city contracts, and which has been very helpful for helping increase the opportunities for our small and minority businesses on city projects. And I think that should be something that could be mirrored throughout the state of Kentucky. We say contract opportunities has been a critical issue for our small businesses, in particular our construction-based businesses. Really oftentimes they're left out of the information network, which is one of the key things of being more informed about what opportunities are in the state. Many of our state and local minority databases are not an adequate reflection of our minority contractors throughout the state. And so we could do a better job of making sure that we are engaged in our communities, making sure that our businesses are really connected to those opportunities and networks, and being seen for those opportunities. And then, there are systematic barriers that we really need to address. Many of our small contractors, they will say one of the biggest barriers they have is when they go into bid for a contract and they know they're a small contractor and only have a very small piece of this contract, but they send over a 2,000-page document that they have to sift through. And we have to realize that in the state of Kentucky, what's so critical for our construction-based industry is a very small and dense industry. You're realizing that 99% of our businesses in the construction business are small businesses. Most of those, 80% of those, are sole proprietorships. We're looking at only around 1.5% of the businesses in construction-based businesses in Kentucky hire more than 20 employees. And so that is very, very crucial to our small business and construction-based business to have resources that would really help them. You know, as an individual, I'm a sole proprietor. I would very like to go off on this state project, but the time consuming and the effort for me to bid on this project is just not within my realm. And so really addressing those particular barriers that our small-based businesses will help our small businesses across the spectrum is something that we really need to begin to look on the contract opportunities and how that impacts our small businesses, and it has a critical impact on our minority-based businesses. And before you move on, we talked a lot about mentorship, building mentorships and networking. That's oftentimes said, but that's a really complication in that. When you start getting connected to networks, for our small businesses, even to join a chamber of commerce may be a daunting task for them because that membership may not be within their finances. And so they're out of that network and out of that information network and opportunities to build their business. You talk about building mentorships. That's going to be a complex development that you have, because oftentimes we look at it, as we hear today, how you're going to have this big mentor and help me build up. But we're realizing that on our small businesses, we're dealing with a very competitive environment. And so we have to realize that our mentorship programs have to be multifaceted, that they're key to having peer-to-peer mentors, or have more people going to college. You had a study partner today. That mentorship helped you through that, navigate through college. And many having that peer-to-peer mentorship can help many of these businesses navigate through the challenges they have in the industry in particular. And as you have some statistics about, the business climate here in Louisville, it was previously reported that only 7.7% of our businesses here are minority owned. They said about 1,100 of our certified minority businesses, but I believe that is not a correct reflection of what the number is today. I believe we have much more who have been certified through many of our local and statewide business accelerator programs. I know through the One West program alone, the Plan Room, we have certified over 100 new MBA businesses since 2022, and so and we're really, really good. And there's a great need for not just programming but resources for our small-based businesses. I know we had the Plan Room program in Louisville, but we had businesses coming from Lexington for our resources. We had businesses coming all the way from Pikeville, Kentucky, for seeking opportunities. So this is an issue that is statewide and that we really need to get keen attention to. And we're looking at our small businesses, but in particular to our construction-based businesses, to have a unique issues and complex matters that are quite different than our other small-based businesses. Go ahead.
Still want to talk about initiatives?
Yes, and I guess, we will focus on the initiative of how do we really can support our small businesses and our construction-based businesses. Like we said, increasing our access to capital, having our banks and financial institutions develop innovative ways to help give access to capital to our small and minority-based businesses, and begin to take that risk. And opportunity, you say financial literacy, we, through partnering through our educational program, is really helping to build in construction. Not only you have a gap, you have a really serious gap coming in construction with labor. And so making sure that our educational system is focused on filling in that gap. But also when Representative Brown spoke of technical expertise becoming a business, and particularly dealing with the construction-based businesses through our work with the Plan Room, we recognize that most of our small sole proprietors struggled. But when we realize that you have some individuals with some great administrative expertise, and we try to encourage those individuals to start your own business so you can become the administrative assistant to many of these small contractors who are in great need of your service. We've actually, through the program, we actually had 2 individuals in that light who became great services to our contractors in that vein. So that's really identifying the need and showing and finding where those technical expertise can be a resource to someone. It can be easily transferred into a business. And so I think that we've found ways through collaboration. I think through initiatives, we are supporting our Construction Diversity Accelerator program. I know they have one in the University of Kentucky that has been awesome on helping building up our local construction businesses. I believe one key thing we also talk about the efforts on inclusion. I think one model that if we could all look at on really being a very inclusive model on local business inclusion and minority business inclusion is the West Louisville Norton Hospital that was recently built in the Parkland neighborhood in the city of Louisville. And that was an initiative with a keen focus, an intentional focus on local and minority business inclusion. And they also made investments in that, not only making sure that businesses were included, but making an investment in the local community of those businesses who are not quite ready to be included, to help them build the capacity to be ready on those future developments that coming on into the community. So giving greater support to those type of initiatives would be great. And really, and funding and resources for a program like the Plan Room would be essential, and supporting the MCAK would be essential on really providing that technical assistance and capacity building that many of our small businesses need to help support to sustain themselves. And supporting programs like MCAK could be a great way to really leveling the playing field for our small businesses and having a resource for them to help navigate and advance themselves in this construction industry. I believe that would be very, very important to our construction-based businesses that are critical to our community. We're realizing that in the construction, in the state of Kentucky, we probably have approximately about 49,000 construction-based businesses and they probably employ about 42% of our labor force here in the state of Kentucky. And so that is very, very crucial and critical for us to give keen attention to our small businesses in construction that impacts all our businesses, because you can't have this nice facility here, a nice retail facility, or a nice office space unless you have some good qualified contractors to help assist them to maintain those spaces. And so having resources and being a strong advocate for minority business inclusion on our construction projects will be critical of making the state of Kentucky a very, very model place on small business development and support. And so at this time, I would entertain any questions that you guys may have.
Thank you so much. The plan room is pretty cool. Like, you've got some really cool things going on. Just like Lexington, Louisville's doing some great work. We want to make sure we're balancing out our state with representation. So, commission members, does anybody have any questions or comments for them? Can't tell if Representative Brown is talking to me. No, I'm just kidding. Anybody? Senator Berg?
I'm just going to talk about the elephant in the room, guys. You know, last session, we voted as a body to undermine diversity, equity, and inclusion in this state. And then we have all these wonderful people with wonderful ideas and wonderful initiatives coming to talk to us. And in my heart, I'm saying, guys, they don't want to do it. They don't believe it needs to be done, or if they think it needs to be done, they want it done for their own children, not for anybody else's. So I'm sitting here, just my frustration is I don't know how to share it. Not with you, with this committee, with this legislative body who sits here year after year after year and does nothing. And in fact goes backwards, intentionally goes backwards, so that none of the children that need this support in this state through their education are going to be able to get it. On purpose, we took all those programs away. It's a rhetorical question, but what in the hell are we in this room for? That's what I'm asking. I'm sorry.
But I think what and definitely through the work through MCAK and the Plan Room, overall the issue is dealing with small businesses and the impact of small businesses. And I think if we could just focus on helping our small businesses throughout the state of Kentucky, inevitably we assist our minority businesses. There's still some systematic barriers we're going to deal with, but providing resources for our small businesses helps undergird our individuals in our community. And I believe that could be the focus. And we can slide in the race and minority, but really providing resources for our small-based businesses, which many of our minority businesses are our small and newly started businesses, really will put help on really helping that particular effort. And really the challenge would also be throughout the state of Kentucky and maybe nationally on how you can really strengthen local business inclusion on projects. So if you come in a particular community and you strive that local business inclusion, that inevitably helps the minorities and the underserved in that community as well. And that's one of the greatest challenges that we probably have with local inclusion is that. And so we really focus on how we can really be strong advocates and put place in mechanisms and laws and in place to really support local business inclusion. As you're going into a local community, that could really well help our minority businesses as well through that process. So we could probably really give the guys of the small business inclusion, but that also helps our MVE, WVEs, our DVEs as well.
That was very elegantly said.
That was very eloquent.
And I appreciate you stepping up to the question. I wasn't sure if that was directed at me or to you. So, and I think you're exactly right. Mr. Forrester said sometimes when you mandate things, they don't have long-term success. And so providing the right resources and putting people in the right room and supporting Lexington has done quite a bit of small business outreach because of a rising tide lifts all boats. That is certainly, and looking for themes, I think is a part of this commission's work. Where are there barriers? Where are there challenges? Where can we find some synergy amongst different areas and look for ways to move the needle? It may look different, and that's okay. We still want to move the needle.
Absolutely.
And so I appreciate your comments. I think local support is critical to that. When you have communities that are open to inclusion of all people wanting to be together and wanting to do good things, that does help. And not every community is fortunate to have that buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you very much for your material and for your thoughts and comments very much. And for the entire conversation has been helpful as we move forward and look for ways to move Kentucky forward.
Well, I think our construction-based businesses, as well as our smaller contractors, will be very thankful to the state and the legislator for your amendment to the Construction Fairness Act. And that increased the payment for our small contractors from 4 to 2 weeks, and so that is greatly appreciated that you consider that as a change.
Thank you. You got it. I'll put that on my list. I'm sorry, Representative Brown.
Madam Chair, before we adjourn, I'd just like to speak to House Bill 5 that passed.
House Bill 5 is
The diversity, equity, inclusion.
No.
It's 4.
House Bill 5 is.
House Bill 4. Okay.
Yeah.
Diversity, equity, inclusion, and I said on the House floor that that is not the problem in America. The problem in America is GIC. The G stands for greed, the I stands for incompetence, and the C stands for corruption. And what we have in America is GIC. That is the problem to everything that is happening. And the ultimate thing that boils down to is white supremacy. And we've got to deal with that problem. As long as we have that elephant in the room and we're not dealing with it, we've got serious problems. And America will never be, in my opinion, as great as it proposes itself to be because of GIC. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. And I hope this is a space where we can have talks about elephants in the room in a respectful and productive way. So thank you very much again for your presentation.
Thanks for having us.
Commission members, I'll just mention that we have our next meeting, which is on July 29th. We are going to meet at KSU at the Kentucky State University. We thought it would be nice to spend some time on the campus, A, and then B, we're going to be discussing education in a variety of different areas. So I think that'll be a nice change of place. So if you're looking for us, we will be at Kentucky State University on July 29th.